Interview surveys, like questionnaire surveys, are still focused on asking questions. They tend to be face-to-face rather than paper-based, although you can conduct them over the telephone, and people do use online facilities like chat rooms to conduct interviews too. That's not very common in educational research, but there's no reason why it couldn't be done. The amount of structure involved in an interview varies. Sometimes an interview might literally be reading questions off a questionnaire to a person, and then ticking boxes or writing down the responses for them. That's a bit like those market research people we see in the town. The other end of the scale, I suppose, would be things like the open interview, where it's basically a conversation on a theme and you record the person's responses as best you can, perhaps on paper, maybe using a dictaphone or tape recorder or an MP3 player. As a consequence, interviews can be used to generate both qualitative and quantitative data. You could ask people about how many GCSEs they left school with, but you could also ask them why they chose the subjects that they did. That gives us an insight into how much level of qualification there is, but also what that level of qualification might have meant for the person when they were taking their GCSEs. This means that interviews can be very, very powerful methods, but it also has a problem associated with it. The highly flexible nature of the interview makes it hard for people to compare the responses of one interview candidate to another. It also means that the interviewer can try, maybe not even consciously try, but might wind up leading the interviewee down certain lines of inquiry. The interviewee might wind up saying things that they think the interviewer wants to hear. Finally, it's worth repeating that any interview is subject to that kind of limitation that we mentioned before. If you're interested in socially unacceptable things, you're not likely to get very honest responses in a face-to-face interview. If I ask parents face-to-face to tell me about what they know about their children's conduct, they're not going to tell me that they know they truant or are not in uniform and that they do nothing about it. Good interview technique is all about getting the balance right. The balance is between the interviewer's insight and understanding of the purpose of the interview, and the respondent's actual ideas. It's very hard in educational settings where status and power are kind of built in. If you're asking people to remember what it was like when they were at school, or if you're interviewing people who are at school, they are already in a certain power relationship to the topic. If the interview is being conducted by somebody who is thought of as either a teacher or of equivalent status to a teacher, then that power is going to make a difference to the way the person responds.